To this now, the Proteas are playing tonight in the Netball World Cup. Let's get an update. We're now across to our sports reporter, Lebohang Dude. Lebohang, thank you so much for your time. Now, before we get to netball, let's talk about Banyana Banyana for a second. You know, thrashing Italy 3-2 in a breathtaking match played at the Wellington Regional Stadium. Just what are your thoughts? What are the fans saying after that match?
Thank you very much. I think there's just a lot of excitement around Banyana Banyana and their performance in New Zealand against Italy. I guess it was expected that they would perform much better against Italy. Following the performance against Argentina and against Sweden, losing that first match against Sweden by just a slight margin and playing to a 2-2 draw against Argentina. And when you look at Italy and Argentina and how Italy has performed in the tournament, you know, there was a little bit of hope that Banyana Banyana would be able to prevail victorious. A lot of excitement around the victory here in Cape Town, here at the CTICC, fans coming in to support their nations here in terms of the Netball World Cup, speaking and talking about Banyana Banyana. I mean, in the morning when we came in, there were a lot of people just, you know, raving about how the team has performed and how they expected Banyana Banyana to be able to outclass Italy and be able to qualify for the round of 16.
Well, let's talk now about the Proteas. I mean, they're playing tonight in the Netball World Cup. How's the excitement there?
There's a lot of excitement, and you know, the excitement is building up here in Cape Town. We've seen a couple of fans already coming in. In fact, the two teams have already arrived. The first team to arrive was the host nation, the Proteas, followed by New Zealand. Quite an important match for the two teams. You know, a win for them will almost guarantee them a spot in the semi-final. A tough task for the Proteas after their defeat to Jamaica. But just to speak a little bit more about the two teams and about this particular match, I'm joined by our analysts Sino and Ginelwe, who will break it down for us. And I will start with Sino. In terms of the Proteas, Norma Plummer and her team, where do you think will be the focus areas, especially after that Jamaica match? Remember that it was one of those tough opponents for the Proteas, and they are coming against perhaps their toughest opponent thus far in the tournament.
Thank you so much, Lebu. So like you've mentioned, that Jamaica match was a really important match for us. We really needed to win that. Now that's in the past. So now we're looking at New Zealand. And for us to make sure that we're going to go into that semi-final, we need to win this game. And for us to be able to do that, I think Norma Plummer must just focus on the defensive combinations there. Because imagine, you know, a rebound from an Ignacio or Maya Wilson that when they played against Wales, she had 100% shooting average, you know. So we need to make sure that we clean up on our penalties. And if you look now, they actually did clean up. Looking at yesterday's game, by half-time, they were only sitting at a penalty count of 22, where before it was really, really high. So that's also, they need to capitalize on cleaning up in the defense, making sure they get those rebounds so that they can capitalize. And when they do get the rebounds, we need to make sure that we make them count.
We hear Sino speaking about the defense, which will be quite important for the Proteas, looking at their previous matches and the errors, some of the errors that they made in that match against Jamaica in particular. But looking at the two teams, what do you think will be the difference for them to just get a step closer to qualifying for the semi-finals?
Oh, I think, you know, both coaches have been talking throughout the duration of this championship about clinical. And each team being clinical, whether it's with the passes or ensuring that their systems are able to carry out, obviously, what they've been training at training. But I think today, the Tasman rivalry will be on showcase. As you know, Norma Plummer did coach Australia before, and I think that will be important on how each coach adapts to what the other team is doing. So for me, the focus not so much on what is happening on court, but how the two coaches are able to play chess and see who can get the better of who.
Sino, just coming back to you again, we heard the players earlier on this week after the match against Trinidad and Tobago speaking about the unity that they need when they come up against New Zealand, that they need to be there for each other on the court. But I'm sure there are those players that perhaps would need to step up, to be the difference, and ensure that they give the Proteas in particular, give them that extra edge.
Look, Lebo, we're a defensive country, and I'm going to choose a defensive player. I'm going to go for Carla Pretorius. And we've seen bits of greatness, with the games that she's played. But we need her now to show up for this game, because she is going to be the game changer for us. She is our interceptor. She is, what Norma Plummer in that defensive circle has in the pocket. So between herself and Pumza, they need to make sure that they make this game work for South Africa. So mainly for me, it will be a Carla Pretorius. We need to see her for what we know her to be. We've seen bits of that in the tournament, but we need to see who we know her to be in this game, because this is the game that she needs to show up.
Ginelo, would you share the same sentiments?
Well, I think, obviously now going into this game, it will definitely be a team effort. And I think each unit or each system really does need to show up. So whether it's on the side of, Talyat and Inamari Fenta, or on the side of Pumza or Carla Pretorius. But I think for me, for this game, it'll definitely be our mid-court. So whether she decides to start with Kanyisa Chawani or Bongim Somi on center, I think that will be crucial in being able to connect the two units. So whoever's on center really needs to be the engine in terms of attack, but also be the difference when it comes to connecting the defenders. So whoever's on center, I think a lot rides on her shoulders, because she really does need to be the difference and the connections.
And we've seen how New Zealand have played. They've really done well for themselves. They are the defending champions. They've won all their matches. What do you think has been the difference when you look at the New Zealand team?
Well, I think the obvious one is obviously the type of domestic league that they have. If you look at the strength that league, the height that league has gone into, it's really, really strong, and they play week in, week out, when we just don't have that luxury. We do have some players playing overseas, and they are the difference in this team. So I think when we're looking at how we can strengthen our numbers or our depth, it would definitely be to look at how many players we can get, to play overseas, or look at how many players we can get coming in to the TNL, which Cecilia Mulukwani, NSA president, has sort of alluded to, saying, we shouldn't be losing a lot of our players to overseas domestic leagues, but rather bring them here so that we can even out the playing fields.
And the Proteas they've really also stepped up. It was just unfortunate against Jamaica, but where do you think the Proteas need to really focus on, not only for this particular match, but also moving into the match against Uganda and beyond the World Cup?
Lebo, I think another thing that we need to focus on as, Proteas, is that third quarter. But if we look at the game that they played against Jamaica, there's something that seems to be happening with the Proteas in the third quarters, and maybe, I don't know if it's maybe then that's where the lack of discipline comes in, that's where the penalty counts come in, because in that quarter with the Jamaican game, they scored 3 goals in 15 minutes, and that's not the caliber of players that we know we have in this Proteas team. Same thing happened with the last game. I'm not quite sure which one it is, I can't think about it now, but also the third, Trinidad and Tobago, the third quarter, Trinidad and Tobago, well, they came into the game, and that's where Proteas, I don't know if they lose the concentration or whatever it is, so they just need to keep it clinical in the third quarter, and that is the championship quarter, and that's what we're known for, and that's where they need to concentrate and show up for us.
Looking at the match against TNT, we did see, speaking about being clinical, we did see the Proteas not, taking the advantage in many cases, in many instances. Do you think that's where perhaps we also lack as a nation?
I mean, we're able to do that usually. This is where, when we look at that game, we're like, we could have done so much better in that game. And this is where the discipline comes in, and the cleaning up in those penalty counts. And when we do get rebounds, which is going to be difficult in this game, capitalize on them and make sure, even if it means we play 100 balls, make sure we get to that boopy of the circle, make sure that we get it into, if it's going to be an Ina Marie in the circle, or a Talyad, or Almarie, whoever it's going to be, make sure the ball is safe and capitalize. That's what we need to do.
After that particular win, the players' confidence was boosted, looking forward to this game against New Zealand. But are we really confident that the Proteas will be able to hold their own against New Zealand?
Well, I think they proved that in the first, second and fourth quarter against Jamaica, that we definitely are able not only to hold our own but bring it when it comes to playing against the top 3 countries in the world. Unfortunately, with South Africa, it's not just about the pockets of brilliance, it's about bringing that type of performance for 60 minutes. And, that's the big question today. Can we do that for 60 minutes? Because, Lebo, if we can do that for 60 minutes, then there's some drama in this World Cup, because if we win today, then it has to be a must-win for New Zealand tomorrow. Otherwise, they are out. And if they win tomorrow, then it's an even playing field, and it then goes down 2 points. So obviously, not just patriotic, but just to add some drama to the World Cup. We really are hoping for a South African win. Yeah.
Ladies, thank you very much for joining us. And those were our 2 analysts, Sino and Kinelu, really breaking it down for us ahead of a crucial encounter where the Proteas are desperate for a win. And New Zealand will also want to secure that semi-final spot with a win against the Proteas this evening.
Lebo, thank you so much for that update. Of course, Lebohang Dude coming to us live there from Cape Town. Well,